All right, Locker and Flossers fans, we are here today with what I believe is episode 9 and our new intro. As you can hear, Mike is getting a little crazy in the DJ booth with our intro music. That's just a default intro on Zencaster. This is not sponsored by them. This is just the intro that we got. So, Mike, how are you doing today?
That was a hard stop on the intro, so it didn't fade out or anything. So, doing great. How
All
are
right,
you?
well, we're learning. We're learning for sure. So we're gonna start this Carlos T and Mike D episode with our our first segment that we always do, lessons from the mat. So, Mike, what have the mats been teaching you this week?
My lesson from the mat is about patience, and it got away from me to where, for me, it's just a reminder to be patient and like through the progressions of the move, through positions, be patient. And sometimes I'll like try to move on too quick, and then I kind of like got in this like thing of where I would, especially I felt like it was happening for like a few days of training where I would just kind of rush through things, whether it's positions or trying different submissions or whatnot. And then when I went back to like just being patient with things, it's more of like a slower game for me. But then I'm also able to like maintain control a little bit more. And then for me, it kind of gives me it like slows things down too, to where I can like start to analyze things a little bit different. To where when I was less patient, I was just trying to move, and then I'd kind of get caught up in this like moving without like the like a plan, like without intention or giving up a position, but then like not really having like you said in the last podcast, less the last time we did lessons from the mat, like not having like okay, it's A B, but not knowing what C D is
Yeah,
before I make the move. So patience for me was key.
for sure. So I've got kind of a couple that are related. So one is I got caught with basically I was on top and I was putting myself in a position where I knew that there was a potential that I could get triangled. So my left arm was out and my left arm was out, my right arm was kind of on the guy's like thigh, pushing it down, and I knew that there was a potential where I could get caught in a triangle, but I was, I basically just my ego took over and I was like, no, I'm not going to get caught. Like, I know that that's pretty much the only option this person has, so I'm just going to be quicker with my defense than they are with their offense. And that proved to not really be true. So I got caught and he went for the triangle, and then I tucked the arm to bait him into switching the omoplata. He switched the omoplata. And then I followed my normal sequence where like I knew that that was about to happen. So then I rolled for the defense, and then I ended up just I defended the omoplata, but then when I came up, I ended up getting triangled again, and then I ended up getting I tapped to the triangle, but that was another one where I was immediately like, okay, yep, this is another lesson from the mat. Like, even though I didn't get caught with the first triangle, like I put myself in such a compromised position that I knew I was willingly putting myself into, but my ego was like, nah, I'm fine. Like I'm better than this guy. I'll get out of it. It's not a big deal. And then it in fact was a big deal and I got caught. So again, luckily, he's cool and it's a good training environment and it wasn't a big deal. But how that relates to life is sometimes you can forego the risk knowing that you're willingly putting yourself in a potentially risky situation because you're thinking, oh no, it's going to be fine, and your ego tells you that, and in reality it turns out to not be fine, and you can get caught. Maybe you're not going to get caught immediately, maybe you can survive doing dumb stuff for a while, but then, you know, eventually it'll catch up with you. And that's not even, that's not even anything nefarious. That can just be so much as like, all right, I know I shouldn't be eating this, but it's fine. I work out enough. And then, later down the line, you keep staying consistent with doing what you're not supposed to be doing diet wise. And then later down the line, you got high cholesterol or whatever it is. But if your ego, just never listen to your ego, I guess is the main point. Because in this case, I did, and I got choked out. And that can be extrapolated to any area of life where if your guiding star is your ego, that's not a good guiding star. And you should listen to that little voice in your head saying, hey, maybe get both arms out. Let's not put ourselves in a position where we're risking this. Or at least if you're going to do it, just go quick and then, like, pin that leg with the arm real quick, but then pass or make a move. But don't be consistently doing this. Don't hold your arms in a one arm in, one arm out scenario. So that was my lesson from the mat.
Yeah, it's interesting when I've been in that same that same situation in jiu-jitsu too, where you're just like, I know this is not smart. Like I know like this isn't like there's something that's super vulnerable with what I'm doing, but I'm just still like in my head I'm like, but like I'll be stronger in my defense to where I can like recover at least, and then all of a sudden it's like you said, it's not the case. So I 100% that happens. That's like a little reality check too. It's just like, okay, well, you can't just
Well,
get out of every bad position.
yeah, and there's a difference too. If you're looking at it as like, okay, I'm gonna in this situation, okay, I'm gonna work on my triangle defense. Or for me, a big thing is like with the leg locks. All right, I'm gonna purposely put my legs here, or get into a leg lock shootout with somebody that I know is better at leg locks than me, and I'm not going to be winning this, but I'm going to be working on it through just reps and practice and getting getting those repetitions in with somebody that is resisting and is probably going to submit me. That's different than, oh, I'm going to be fine. Like, I'm better
Mm-hmm.
than this person. I'm not going to get caught. Like, if you're doing it purposefully to
Intentionally.
improve, yeah, intentionally. Like we were talking on the last version of this episode. If you're doing it with intentionality of, okay, I'm going to work on my defense, then okay, that's completely different than, no, I'm fine. I'll be good, and then you get choked out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just something I wanted to highlight for sure.
A leg lock shootout sounds very scary. A leg lock shootout? I don't know, man.
Just
That's,
tap early.
yeah, I do. That's very early. Yeah.
Yeah, the other Mikes get me in leg lock shootouts a lot. Mike Shackelford and Bermudez. I learn a lot, and I I risk breaking my legs regularly, but hasn't happened
But
yet.
they can't fix the hematoma.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so the next segment is going to be more more questions from the fans out there. Mike, question number one: what have you learned about yourself recently?
So I'd say like it's a reminder to myself recently that and I actually try to catch myself and remind myself about this often, but it is a reminder that recently that made a lot of sense because sometimes I'll fall in the trap of like like okay, uh, philosophy, love or wisdom, trying to learn, like just being super open minded. I love it all, right? I'm always trying to like learn something new, learn in general, but for me, something just a reminder to myself. So it's like learn about myself, but it's just like I still don't know, right? I still don't know shit. Like the more you know that you don't know. So for me, it is that like even catching myself, even like the more work I do on myself, still understanding that the work is never done. So never being like content or comfortable with kind of where you're at, and just always, kind of doing like a functions check on yourself is important to see kind of where I'm at, and just making sure, to like checking your ego. So like keeping the ego in check, and using, you know, having a good relationship with the ego because it's needed. But then also not letting it drive and control your life and stuff like that. So for me, it is like a reminder of that.
Okay. Um, what I've learned about myself recently has really been through doing this podcast and getting to know you better, is just being more intentional with everything that I do. So what I've learned recently is that have been, I've not been as intentional as I should be with different things, particularly with, mindfulness in general, um, and also just relationships with people. I've not been intentional in growing the relationships with people in my life. Just kind of been letting things, just being content with the status quo of like, okay, these are people I train with. I'm not going to get to know them better, especially now when I do have kind of more time on my hands with doing this real estate thing. It's, let me get to know people better. Let me be more intentional. Let me see what I can learn from people, and then also the value that I can bring to them. And so I've learned that being intentional, or not being intentional rather, is a shortcoming of mine, and that I need to address it. And really all it takes is more work, and, you know, just can't be lazy. And so investing in people, investing in those relationships through just spending more time with people and gaining gaining more knowledge from them, and seeing, yeah, just how we can make this a mutually beneficial relationship has been, it's been good. It's been something I've been growing in recently.
Yeah, and it's super what you said about providing values. That's huge because it's also like, coming from it, coming at it with a standpoint from a standpoint of like, how can I provide value in this dynamic, right? This relationship to this person. That's huge because I mean I think that's where strong relationships, mutual relationships grow together that way, right? Even if they don't know it. So I think finding a way to provide value and then not being like a taker always, kind of thing
Yeah, a
is
little
huge
leech
too. Yeah.
for sure. All right, next question
Oh, hey,
is,
I'm gonna pause there 1 second. Let me grab my and we can edit this. I'm gonna grab my charger because this battery's like draining. Hold on 1 second.
yeah, I just have to grab one too. All right, so the next question is, how do you balance fitness slash health and fun? So I saw a couple days ago you were at the cigar bar, had a couple old fashions, had yourself a cigar. That same night I went to Michigan State game with my buddy, and had a couple drinks myself. So, Mike, how do you balance fitness and health and fun?
So for me, fitness and health are going to be because with health in general, it's there's so much to it. Physical health, mental health, all, um, nutrition. You got the fitness aspect and you got the nutrition aspect. So fitness and health, they go hand to hand. And for me, that's the non-negotiable in a sense, right? To where fitness, I'm always doing something to make sure that I maintain my level of fitness, like what I want to work on for my fitness and my health, depending on what my goals are and time of my life, what how like the version of training that I'm doing. But it's always something like it's always going to be important to me, not only from like a standpoint of how I feel, um, or aesthetically, or it's just for me, it's just important, like mentally, honestly, like just to kind of have that. I feel the best when I eat clean. I feel the best when I work out. I feel the best when I move. And I feel the best, when I'm doing these, when I'm, even if it's just walking, right? So for me, balancing them is also, I went through periods of time where I kind of like step back from some of those things of having fun. What people would say is fun, just because I got really just very, very like strict with certain things and like fitness and health. And then, so I went through that for, probably a couple of years of very strict dieting, and just the way I would, not have a drink at all. Um, and, and then there is an element of it to, where having a drink or two, having a cigar, it does allow you to have fun and allow you to enjoy life too. But it doesn't have, like, I don't need to have a drink to have fun. And that was like a big thing for me, when I was younger. When you're younger, you're like going out and partying and having drinks, and you think you like need to have drinks to have fun and enjoy yourself. So for me, once I was able to understand, I think it was like stepping back from all that stuff for a while, um, allowed me to understand that I can like have fun, or I can go out and be present in certain things without like having a drink. Or even at the time, like back then, like I never smoked cigars, so it's like I wouldn't even smoke a cigar or anything. But that doesn't matter. You can still socialize, you can still have fun, engage. So once I understood that that's possible, um, as funny as it sounds, but like, even if other people are drinking or whatever, once I like realized that that's possible, it allowed me to really find a balance. So now, like, okay, I had, like you said, I had a couple of old fashions and a cigar, actually two cigars, and now like, and that was so. So for me, the biggest thing for me, I'm not saying that, sometimes it will be 2 days in a row. Maybe I'm not saying it's not like a never thing, but for me, it's like if I do go out and indulge and have fun, and maybe it is some liquor. Like I know, like I was telling you the following day, like even at just two drinks and the cigar, like I woke up like you feel off, right? You don't feel like your best self. So in my mind, I don't like that feeling, but I'm also, so I know what it does to you, right? Or what it can do to you, especially if you, kind of, if you not only abuse it, but if it's a consistent part of your life type of thing, it can have some harmful effects. So for me, that's a reminder right there. Like, okay, I had some fun, um, had some drinks, had a cigar. My throat's a little scratchy, slight little, just two drinks, slight little like feeling off, like something. Right, my body knows what was in there. So that's all I need to kind of like remind myself to hop back on a path to like keep clean, um, because it's just, I don't really like I'm not gonna sit here and drink. I don't drink during the week. Like I don't just have like a drink by myself ever. So it's always like a social thing for me, and that also helps me. Um, like I don't even enjoy it enough to really have it alone. Like if I was just sitting here watching like a football game by myself, like honestly, it doesn't go through my mind to have like a glass of whiskey or a beer. But like if a friend was over, maybe I have one. Maybe I don't. But so for me, the balance is knowing. So first of all, I'm always going to stay active, and I'm always going to put my health, overall health, as a priority in my life, because I think that helps you function to your best abilities. So having that as being top of mind and top priority, the balancing part comes in with just knowing, okay, it's like that, how you ever hear of like that 80-20 thing, what people throw around these numbers, and it can be any kind of combination. I mean, not any, I mean, you don't want it to be like 50-50, but, but it's just like one of those things where, if you're into it, like if going out with your friend, if you feel like having a couple drinks and a cigar, it's okay, but then checking in with yourself and knowing like, you know, am I doing this? But then where is everything else in relation to my health, my wellness? Like, am I have I been consistently eating bad, or consistently having, drinking every day type of thing? Like, so making sure that it's not a consistent, like a habit that you're forming, to where it's gonna, because then once, what you see happening is, once you start making it more of like a regular thing or a consistent thing, then you kind of adjust what you feel is normal. like you start to adapt in a way. So like then it's hard for you to see how like that's why if I have one or two drinks, I wake up the next day with like some slight variation of like a little hangover, right? Something like feels off in my body. Whereas like if I was drinking on a regular basis, every week, even 2 days a week or 3 days a week, like I probably wouldn't feel that after two drinks. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
so for me, it's just like always making sure that I'm balancing it. It's just keeping like that, keeping a constant check-in of myself and how I'm feeling, like my well-being. So if I'm feeling
So
off, like if I ate like sweets like 2 days in a row, or if I kind of been an adult, especially now holidays, Thanksgiving, all these pies and indulging, like um, yeah, I'll have some pie, I'll have some homemade cheesecake. It's okay. I allow myself to do that. I used to be hard on myself for that stuff. I allow myself to
yeah,
do that, but then it's like just make sure it doesn't turn into a week of eating, like shit. Or, just kind of allow yourself to enjoy it, but then also know when you have to stop, come back, and kind of recalibrate.
yeah. So what I just wrote down is this all goes back to what Junior said, is that what you get consistent at is what you get good at. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're drinking all the time, if you're eating crappy food all the time, then that's just what you're going to get good at. That's you are what your habits are. And I definitely need to get better at that in the eating realm. um, I'm a young man, I get hungry.
Well, and you're
But
and you're a young man, so like doesn't mean that it's okay or whatever. But you can get when you're younger, you get away with things a little bit
yeah,
more. I mean, like you made a point, it'll catch up to you later in some form, maybe depending on how much you're getting away with in a sense. But like the older you get, the more you realize like the effects of things. Like even so, it's just like it's interesting because from even from like an aging standpoint, like the older you get, the more you realize like certain things. Okay, for drinking, like drinking ages the crap out of you a lot faster than obviously not drinking. So like as you age, if you're not only from like a weight gain standpoint and all this stuff, but there's so many different things that substance alone can affect, right? So for me, it's like I'm not willing to trade that for to feel good, which you really, I mean, it's all you don't really feel that good anyway. It's just kind of you get
well,
drunk
a
or you get.
big thing for me was realizing that I can have a good time without drinking.
That was
Like
huge.
if you, I mean, regularly when I go out with friends, like I just won't. I'll maybe I'll have one drink, but I
Mhm.
won't. So a lot of times I won't even drink, and it's just I can have good conversations, especially now when I'm focusing on being intentional. I can have these good conversations. I can get just as much value out of it by being
More
completely
value.
sober.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more value,
yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So it's kind of just making that shift mentally. So all right, so we covered that one pretty in depth. Let's switch it up to a little bit of a lighter topic here. I'm going to switch this question up a little bit and even the times out. But it says, would you rather spend 1 year at the North Pole or 2 years in the Sahara Desert? I'm going to make them even. Would you rather spend a year at the North Pole or a year in the Sahara Desert?
North Pole. Um, it just seems like, man, they're both so extreme, but it just seems like there would be less. Um, there's less known about it. I mean, like less. I feel like there's more intrigue. The desert has a lot. I'd say the North Pole just because I feel like there's just less. It needs to be there needs to be like an excursion. There needs to be some something done there. So I just feel like there's a lot there that would be interesting to find. Or it could just be a frozen tundra of nothing, and I'm just sitting there
Yeah.
freezing. I don't know.
Let's see how hot the Sahara Desert is. Let's see, average temperature per month. Just need a quick answer here. Okay, it's not giving me a quick answer, but so here we go. It looks like it's basically about 100 degrees. Oh, the Sahara Desert isn't even that hot. So I'm gonna go Sahara Desert because if it was like 140 degrees every day, that'd be different. Um, but it's saying that like January, the average temperature is 63, February 64, March. There's no way this is right. Yeah, so from May to September, it's like 113. So I mean that would suck, but that's only for a few months. My original answer was going to be the North Pole because you can, you can always put more clothes on, but you're limited as to how many clothes you can take off to cool you down. But I mean, if it's not even that crazy in like January and stuff, I'm going to go Sahara Desert on that. So let's get some feedback from our locker room philosopher fans out there. Would you rather spend a year in the North Pole or a year in the Sahara Desert?
You know where I want to spend a year is Antarctica. That'd be fascinating.
My buddy actually, well, the best man at my wedding actually just went down to Antarctica.
Hmm.
And Antarctica was obviously pretty snowy and stuff, but South Georgia and like that's, I guess, an island just north of there. That was like green and luscious, so that was interesting
Well, just
too.
like the whole like Iceland versus Greenland doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Like Greenland's the one that's icy and then Iceland's you can live there. It's like more habitable. It's crazy.
it's big Icelandic tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting back at it. All right, another question. What is your go-to breakfast and morning routine?
Go to breakfast, steak and eggs. But if there's no steak, eggs. Eggs is like my favorite breakfast.
Just plain old eggs.
If I couldn't have the steak with it all the time, might not be but a go to would be steak and eggs for sure.
That is a
Morning route,
delicious breakfast.
yeah, it's a well balanced breakfast for
But
sure.
do you have that on a regular basis, or what is your
So
actual?
that's the thing. Like, I don't have. I mean, I would love to have it on a regular basis, but it just comes from like one thing I don't like is like reheating a steak, right?
Yeah,
So like steak and eggs is I like it when it's fresh, but then I'm not always making steak every morning, so I don't have it um, every day, but I try to have it like once or twice a week. But eggs would be my breakfast of choice that I can have daily for sure. But then I also do like a lot of intermittent fasting. So sometimes my breakfast isn't really like a traditional breakfast, you know? It's like later in the day. Um, so that could impact some things too. Morning routine. Morning routine is that's a big one for me. So morning routine, I like to get up early, between 5 and 6 a.m. There's some things that are non-negotiable that I just do no matter what, and some things that I try to do, but then it just depends. I try to. There's some things again non-negotiable. I'm not as flexible on, and then there's some things that just kind of depends on the day. But morning routine when I get up, it's hydration with some electrolytes, with some salt. So usually I use Celtic sea salt. Put that in the water. I take water right away. Drink glass of water right away. Um, then personally, I like to because I'm always like stiff and whatnot. So I like to just do something, some kind of like low intensity, just move. And it could be a combination of like a mobility, stretch, movement type of thing. I usually put on sometimes with no music, sometimes I'll put on a podcast or some kind of um, something in the background, right? And just kind of like flow with it for 10, 15 minutes, nothing crazy, just to move the body, just so I can, get things opened up in a way. So 10 to 15 minutes of movement after the water. I make coffee. I like coffee. Then I have my coffee. I sit down and I read. I try to read um, at least a chapter, of something, but it depends on what I'm reading. It could be, if it's like the Daily Stoic, it might even be just a page. But I usually try to read something like a chapter. But in the morning, my reading is usually a little bit more. It's usually around things that are a little bit more introspective in nature too. So it's not like, it doesn't have to be like a long, reading period. I'll just read something that could be something that's just that kind of like forces you to think more, right? So whatever that thing is, it's usually a shorter passage. And then what I do from there is I go into meditation. I love meditating. I love quieting the mind, setting my intention for the day, getting still, trying to prep my mind before the day starts. And then what I like to do, but I don't do enough of, is cold plunging. Would be awesome if I can get, like, kind of make that happen every single morning, or even a cold shower, right? But I don't always hit that one at all. Um, and then that would be like, those are like the main things I do every morning. Yeah. And then with the meditation, it combines with like a breath work practice, which is cool because it just really, gets my body primed.
So that segues into not a sponsor, but just an option for those out there. If you need a cold plunge from the convenience of your house, hit up at the Freezer Plunge on Instagram. I make cold plunges out of deep freezers, and they
Custom.
have, yeah, exactly. They have sanitation, temperature control, and filtration for all your cold plunge recovery needs. So yeah, Mike, that's an awesome morning routine. We actually should get you one of those freezer plunges here soon. I know we've been talking about that for a while. I need to make another one, but um, my morning routine is not nearly as good. There's evidence. There she is. We can edit that out. Uh, but so my morning routine is not nearly as good. I get up at like 7:30 ish, and then it's a matter of dealing with the dogs. And my breakfast, actually segueing to the breakfast thing, is my blood sugar gets all jacked up if I like have carbs too early in my day. I get all cranky and like brain foggy, which is annoying. So I have 4 eggs, about 4 ounces of ground beef in there, and then like a probably half a cup to a cup of cottage cheese mixed in there. So that's like 60 grams of protein or something. It's a lot. And then basically after I'm done with that, then I'll have my pieces of sourdough bread. I'll have a piece of sourdough bread and some ghee butter on there. And so I'll get my fats, my proteins, and my carbs. And then it's, just a matter of going about the rest of the day. But I should probably get more intentional on that too. Get some reading in. Definitely need to get some movement in. That actually usually I'll not usually, but probably 4 times a week I'll cold plunge and work out before I eat and just get the body moving. I'll just throw my sandbag around. Do nothing too crazy, but sandbag, kettlebells. So just get the day started off right, but nothing too crazy. All right. Next question. I'm curious about this one. Your night routine.
Hold on 1 second.
Just hit the pause.
Hold on. Let me check my connection. All right.
So yeah, what's your night routine? It's another question people are asking.
Night routine is so. I love to go on, which is in this happens in the morning too, but I like to way easier to do because I have to with the dogs. But I like to go on a walk at night. Um, I try to stop consuming anything around like 7 o'clock. I personally try to lay. I get to bed around by 10. I'm usually in bed. So for me, my night routine, I really, and I like once you start doing it, you see kind of how it affects you. So I try to, again, stop eating around 7 o'clock, so I'm able to digest before and as I rest, kind of before I lay down to sleep. It's easier on the body instead of like
Mhm.
eating right before you sleep, right? So I make sure I stop eating. I go for a walk, and then I do a some sort of reading again. In the night reading is usually again something more introspective in nature, a little bit deeper. I find like those in the morning and then at nighttime, reading things like that for me, it just helps get my mind kind of on a right path for the day or even ending the day. So so there's some sort of reading in there. One of the things that I was really good at, and then I found myself like lately, I have not been doing a good job at, and it really does affect things, is limiting my cell phone usage at night. So I used to put it down and not look at the screen, and then okay, if I'm reading something cool, and then just go to bed, wind down. But then what I find myself doing lately is kind of engaging more with my phone, um, and then that kind of screws up my sleeping too. So for me, the main things. So I want to get better at that, and then for me, when I sleep, I always usually listen to some sort of like binaural beats or something that can kind of like some kind of brainwave, something that will kind of help get me in this relaxed state. And I just relax and go right to bed. But for me, the biggest thing is stopping the eating at a certain point. I feel way better in the morning. Going for a quick little walk and nighttime to wind down the day, and then meditation follows like that reading, because then once I read the thing, I drop into like a meditation, and that kind of helps me, you know, with the integration of it or the thinking of it, or whatever else is there. And along with when I do these like meditations and stuff like that, like a big part of that stuff too, what I find that helps me is just the gratitude part too. Even if it's starting off like being thankful and then dropping into like just a period of time where you can be the observer of your thoughts or quiet your mind, as they say, stuff like that. um, the gratitude aspect of it is huge, because like even if you have a crappy day, finding something to be grateful for, and gratitude is thrown around a lot, and I think it's something that is super important that everybody should have. um, so that's big for me.
For sure. So well, I guess I could say my night routine. For me, the main issue with sleep has always been my mind just like racing over recently, like business stuff. Before it was, you know, work related, police related stuff. Um, so now I make a pretty conscious effort to just completely like just watch if I'm going to be on my phone, like watch mindless stuff that has nothing to do with me researching or whatever for business, because or this podcast stuff. um, so just detaching from anything that'll get my mind racing. So reading has been helpful with that. The phone, one thing that has helped me with the phone is I've turned the like blue light on it like all the way down. um, I mean, there's still blue light, but at least in terms of that, that has helped me, with going to sleep pretty quickly. And then instead of the binaural beats, I just I pretty much can't sleep without a fan going. So just a good a good constant fan noise really puts me out. And then an eye mask, so just blocking out any light. That's been super helpful. But having we have red lights in like the kitchen and the bedroom and upstairs, so that you know, basically for like an hour before bed, the only light that's getting into the eyes is red lights.
That's nice.
So that's been helpful
Hmm.
for sure. But so I'd say that's my nightly routine. But those are all the questions we got here. So let's segue this into philosophy with Mike D.
All right. So I got a good one. This is an important one that I probably talk a lot about. Um, it's just such a powerful tool here. It's so simple that everybody can, majority of people can do it. Everybody can do it in some way. Majority, we'll see. I'll show you. So this is a good one. So this is by Seneca, and it's Seneca's. It's his writing on the tranquility of mind, and I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but it's called "Take a Walk." Right. So the quote is, "We should take wandering outdoor walks, so that the mind might be nourished and refreshed by the open air and the deep breathing." So taking a walk, it relates to, a lot of philosophers, you'd see them like walking, and you see like a lot of people that like, there's like walking meditations, right, that people do. It's a great way not only to get out in nature, get fresh air, but it's a great way to clear your head, to clear your thoughts, to sit with your thoughts, to observe your thoughts. And it's a great way to be present with yourself as you go for a walk. Sometimes I'll go for walks and just listen to a podcast or listen to um, an audiobook. But a lot of times it's really good just to not listen to anything. Just go for the walk and be there with yourself. And that's something that is a tool that everybody has access to, and it's just so important. So what he says, this is from the Daily Stoic again. So what they quote in here, or what they say in here, that correlates with take a walk is, today make sure you take a walk. And in the future, when you get stressed or overwhelmed, take a walk. When you have a tough problem to solve or a decision to make, take a walk. When you want to be creative, take a walk. When you need to get some air, take a walk. When you have a phone call to make, take a walk. When you need some exercise, take a long walk. Throw on a rucksack even. When you have a meeting or a friend over, take a walk together. Those are always powerful. Going for walks with your friends, having conversations. Nourish yourself and your mind and solve your problems along the way while taking a walk. So I found myself, like, taking a walk for me is huge. All those things I just mentioned, like if I find myself anxious or upset or something, even if I'm thinking, if I have to make some kind of decision or there's something going on, I love going out for a walk. Just being, just step outside and just walk. And then it allows me the space I need to kind of, limits the distractions, limits the input, and it allows me the space I need to just kind of get right with my mind, with whatever it is. It doesn't have to be about some important decision. It doesn't even have to be anger. It can just be like we just said, it can be just going out, taking a walk. You want to work out? Yeah, go take a walk. Like a walk in the morning, it can be your movement too, Um, but yeah, so that's the quote from Seneca. It's just a powerful reminder, just how powerful it is to be in nature, to be outside, to move, to take a walk. And then to what we always talk about, the intention behind the walk is like, okay, I'm not just taking a walk just for health reasons, like just for physical health reasons. Like, I'm doing this because, there's something I need to work out in my mind, and it's a perfect way to do it. Sometimes I'll even, if I'm rucking, with the backpack on, I'll even make sure I put my phone in the backpack, the habit of like pulling your phone out and looking at it or whatever. So I just put it in the backpack. So I'm not even reaching for it. And then it's just peaceful, man. It's just really nice to be out there. And it doesn't have to be a long walk either. It could be just around the block, but I find that's a nice space for me.
For sure. All right. So, all you Locker and Philosopher fans out there, take a walk. Like Mike D said, let us know how that goes and ask some more questions so we can give you some more answers. All right. Have a good one.
Have a good night.